In last week's episode of Blackboard Fridays, we talked about the power and the visual impact that comes from colour coding your diary. One of the questions I get a lot out in the field, because I'm known for taking my coloured pens and for taking all of my meeting notes using these as opposed to a biro, is why do I colour code my notes and what colouring system do I use? Now, you don't necessarily have to use exactly the same system I've got here, but this might be a useful place for you to work out what's going to work best for you. Now, why do I colour code my notes? Well, I describe it as taking notes in 3 dimensions. The classic example of this is when I go into a business and conduct a business review. Now, in that situation, I will often sit in the boardroom for a whole day. I will have a conversation with 8, 10, 12 different individuals about their view of the business, what works well, what they'd like to see done differently. If this was their business, what would they change? And I'm taking copious quantities of notes. I'll go through dozens of pages of notes. And it's then my job to get up the next day and to process all of that information. How much fun do you reckon that would be if it was all written in blue pen? Instead, by using the colour code system, I can focus on different areas and flick through the notes looking for what pops out. Purple is a great example. Purple, in my world, my notes, is for vision. It's the vision the business owners have. It's the vision that individuals within the business have. It's the highest level of context in business, so it's one of the first areas that I'll dig into. And so by using the colour coding, I can just jump into the notes and just look for the purple. Get all of the different bits of purple, know that that's all about vision, and draw some conclusions about what the business needs to do in that space. How often do you actually go back through and read the notes that you take in a meeting? And chances are it's not very often, and part of that is because it's such a laborious process. If you had to read through all of that just to find the 5 or 6 sentences about vision, it might take all day. Whereas by having the colours, you can jump to the various elements that you want to dive into. Briefly, here are the colours that I use. And this is based on a fairly standard pack of coloured pens, so you'll find that these colours are easy to access. Blue is about stuff. It's all the content, the data, the facts and figures, the things that I may need to know, but I'm not really going to dive into to try and change the business. Often I'll write things in blue just to get them out of my head so that I can focus on the far more interesting and more meaningful areas of the business. Green is about solutions. When a business owner is talking about what's challenging them and I come up with a bit of an idea that might help, I'll write that in green so that I can go back through at a later point and go, these are the things that might actually solve some of the problems that they're having. Black is the flip side, is for opportunities. Opportunities is the polite way of saying drama, stress, issues, concerns that are going on with the business. Now, one of the interesting things is I use black for that, where a lot of people might use red. I find red can have an emotional impact on someone. If I pick up the red pen to write something, they sometimes even have a physical flinching kind of reaction. So I need to set the expectation that red is about actions. That means I've got some homework that I've got to do, not that you've done something wrong. What I don't normally tell them is black means you've done something wrong, but you've got to get that information as well. Part of the reason I use red for my actions is that it really does stand out. So I can sit there at the end of a day, and I had a day recently where I had 9 meetings across the course of the day. I was able to pull out my notes and just go looking for the red to make sure I transcribed the actions I'd set into my to-do list system so that they could get done. Again, much more efficient just looking for the red than reading a whole page of blue or black pen. Purple, as we've talked about, is vision, bigger picture. Orange, and we start to get into some of these colours that don't get used as often. Orange for me is about new products, product ideas, products and services. Yellow is joy. When a business owner or a staff member talks about what really makes them happy, I make sure I colour code that in yellow. Great anchor to come back for future conversations. Brown is about structures, setting up the business or the workflow process within the business. And pink, which is the only colour chalk that I wasn't able to find. Pink is about love. And at its core, every business owner comes from a place of love. And if I, as a business advisor, can every now and then just get an idea of what it is that they love, what really, really at their heart is core to them, then that helps me to set all of the other bits of information in the right context. You don't have to use my system for color coding your notes. You don't have to use this perfectly. Sometimes, and I've been doing this for over a decade, I'll just grab the nearest pen and use that. And in different contexts, sometimes the different colors will have different meanings. You've got to work out a system that works for you. But what I would encourage you to do is go out and buy some colored pens, whether that's a small little 4-pack or a whole big set of texters, and start using them. Maybe even keep this next to your notes so that you've got a system you can refer to start taking notes in that third dimension. Your efficiency, the impact of the notes you're taking, will make a real difference.